So I wanted to make a quick kind of video just talking about the MetaHuman projects inside of Unreal and some of the things you could expect, and kind of break down a little bit about how it's set up and how that could be useful for you in the future if you're starting to use them. So the very first thing I want to talk about is if you get into this project and you're finding it to be running too slow because maybe your computer's a little bit older, kind of like mine, what you can do is you can click on the MetaHuman, so this woman right here, and once you're in there, you basically can kind of expand this components tab for the blueprint. And if you scroll down to the bottom, you'll see LODE Sync. This is really helpful because what we can do is we can force an LOD. So by default, this is set to -1, which basically kind of is saying set it to the best quality LOD. And you can see here, the biggest change that I found is their hair, the hair quality. So we're getting more like kind of like actual curve-based hair strands instead of hair cards, especially like on our eyelids, our eyebrows, her top of her head, peach fuzz, and this can be pretty intensive. So I found that if you're trying to do sequence testing or just trying to get around the project, sometimes setting this to LOD of 3, it still keeps up most of the fidelity. It switches the hair out to more like hair cards, but you'll get a lot more viewport performance, which can be really handy for you to be able to start working around in here. If we open up the blueprint that makes up this MetaHuman, and we go to the viewport, again, we're going to double check the LODE Sync. And you can see in the blueprint set to -1. I'm going to set it to 3 right now just for to make it run a little bit faster on my machine. And it'll just take a second to convert over, and we can zoom in here. The biggest thing you'll notice that's kind of a change is that they've now added these groom components. So inside here, we can see that we actually have curves and guides. So the guides are kind of the thing that you're manually adjusting off in, let's say, Maya. And then the curves are the things that are being influenced by the guides. And we can do interesting things that are a little hacky. You could come in here and set the hair clip length to something like 2, and her hair should kind of shrink up. Now, it's not actually dynamically changing her hair. It's just actually trying to clip it shorter. What you might not see is any change because we've switched to LOD 3, which is using hair cards. But if we were to temporarily switch back to her best LOD, her LOD 0 basically, you're going to notice that her hair will shrink up because we've set that hair groom component clipping to be shorter. And it's not really intended to be used this way. It's more for just kind of being a little bit more precise. So again, just a cool little interesting thing that you could potentially use if you were in here working and you kind of needed a little bit of an art adjustment. So I'm going to set it back to LOD 3 just to keep the scene running a little bit faster. You're also going to notice that this model is broken up into multiple skeletal mesh components. So one for the body, one for the face, torso, legs, feet. This is nice. This is, I'm guessing, assuming they're doing this so that you could swap out their shirt, their body size, and all that kind of fun jazz. Nothing too crazy in the event graph. So if we come in here and look at it, we're basically enabling some console variables for strands to make sure that they get enabled or disabled based on some conditions. So basically we can drop out certain materials, create dynamic materials for them, and then set parameters on those dynamic materials right here. And then this allows us to have a little bit more control over the fidelity. So as you can see right here. So nothing too crazy overall. So again, pretty neat. One other thing I found pretty fascinating is if you look at the background behind the MetaHuman in their example, they're actually doing some fake lighting with just a plane and a material. So right here, you can see that this is the material that makes up the background. We have this circle right here, and you can see that we can actually control the vignette hardness and its entire radius. And if we open up the parent material, what you'll see is in here, we have basically the vignette. We have a sphere mask. And so they're kind of using this as a mask to create like a fake lighting effect, is my assumption. So if I close these two, or I just move this down temporarily, you'll see in our scene behind us, we're getting this kind of like nicer fall off. And half of that's being driven just by this ability to kind of fake the softness of the light behind. So I thought this was kind of clever, especially for a little demo. In terms of the setup, nothing too crazy on the lights. So if I click on any one light here, we'll notice we're kind of in a normal candela range, a little bit of setup here with a little bit of a size. volumetric scattering. One thing I did notice is they're setting the shadow bias a lot smaller so that we can actually pick up these small little shadows. So if I set this back to default, you're going to notice some of these shadows will most likely start disappearing. It's right here because the bias is too big. So again, shrinking this in, giving us those extra shadow biases, 0.05. We're getting finer shadow quality. So that's something to think about if you start working with these in the future. Making sure that your lights are basically at the fidelity of the mesh is something important. I did like that they basically parented their lights underneath these kind of parent actors. So it just puts the pivot near the character while keeping the light kind of off in the distance. So if I rotate this or try to do any adjustments, it's a lot easier than if this was just by itself and I free-formally tried to reposition it. I'd be on multiple axes and it's kind of a headache. So this is a good little quick tip for the lighting stuff. There's 2 post-process volumes, but if you kind of notice that if you scroll down, there will be a priority. And so basically, if you see here, the one with the highest priority overrides the one with the lowest. So this cinema one is set to 10. This other one is set to 0. So basically, the cinema one is going to win out over and over again. So it's kind of redundant that there's 2 in here. And it's from what I could tell, they look like they have basically the same settings on them. So it's a little interesting why that's there. But if anybody knows in the comments, you could just say why they think there might be 2 here. Again, they're just running a simple post-process material over the entire screen with this film grain material, which is kind of interesting. But nothing else too fancy going on in here. Just a little bit of color correction, very little. Again, I think it's important to not kind of hack stack your way through projects and to keep it pretty simple here. And if we take a look through here, there's not much more going on. We do have the sequence right here. If you're ever interested in how to quickly open sequences, I'll sometimes come to cinematics at the top and just click on the sequence. And then at first, if you're trying to play this, so let me just start playing. You'll notice it's playing down here.
I am a metahuman.
But the camera cuts that are on my scene right here, I'm not seeing them in my viewport, and I wish I could. This little button right here, just lock the viewport to the camera cuts. This is super useful. You can just really quickly see what's happening in your sequence without just the camera being crazy. Now, I won't be able to move this until I unlock this, and you could always come in here to layouts and two-plane it. And then whatever viewport I'm in, let's just say we make this one perspective, we lock it. We can see now we can lock. We can make this a cinematic viewport, so we get a little bit more going on. Perfect, right there. And now we can kind of have a good setup for testing and running this forward.
The next generation of digital human.
And the last thing I'll close on is a little bit of just the funness. Again, if we go back to the LOD syncing, be a little bit careful because these LODs do get very aggressive. So LOD 7 is really probably meant for being pretty far away or mobile. And as you can see, we can get some pretty chunky, a little bit of clipping. But to Epic's credit, it holds up fairly well, even when it still animates at LOD 7 here. So if I were to run this back, play this, you'll see the mouth holds up pretty well.
I am a metahuman. The next generation.
So I thought that was pretty incredible. Again, don't be afraid to set it to something really gross when you're doing some of your testing, because why not? Especially if you're not seeing the playback being very smooth. So yeah, hopefully this gives you guys some insights into the different kind of ways that you can work with the material, the new groom component, the way they did the background, how they set up their lights. Again, they're just movable lights. There's nothing too fancy going on here. There is ray tracing enabled, but I don't have a ray tracing card, so we're not going to see that. They are using an additional lighting channel. I'm guessing this is for some additional lighting effects, maybe on the character. Yeah, so don't want to make this too long. If you have more comments or questions about things that you want to know how they're set up in here, just leave a comment and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.